Live NFL trivia every Wednesday night on Twitch at 9 p.m. Eastern. Come show off your football knowledge for a chance to win cash prizes. Check the link in the description to find out more. And now, on with our feature presentation. One of the biggest things that fans look forward to before a game is what uniform their team is going to wear. Even though, at the end of the day, it's just a piece of laundry, it can mean so much more than that. Maybe your team is wearing a brand new uniform, and you want to see how it looks on the field, for better or for worse. Maybe your team is wearing uniforms that they always wear, or that they have good luck in, establishing a sense of positive brand identity and association. Maybe your team is wearing a throwback uniform, bringing back a sense of nostalgia that you were longing for. Or maybe you're confused as to the uniform combination from a strategic perspective, as in, the team decides to wear a super dark color on a hot day, which doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense for obvious reasons. But the one thing about uniforms, especially at the Division I level, is that they are known well in advance. It might only be August, but you might know what uniform your team is wearing in October or even November, especially if it is a special one-off jersey. It's never something that comes up as a complete surprise and a complete shock, as in, the game is about to kick off, and one team doesn't even know what uniform they're going to wear, or if they can even wear that uniform. Something like that seems ridiculous, right? Well, in 2000, South Carolina was going to host Georgia in a critical SEC matchup at 3:30. And at noon, literally as people were tailgating outside, players were arriving at the stadium and stretching, and fans were being let in through the gates of Williams-Brice Stadium. The Gamecocks did not have their jerseys, and did not know what jerseys they were going to be able to wear. And this is the story behind the crazy jersey fiasco, and how the legend of the Garnet jerseys became even greater roughly 20 years ago. Before I talk about the controversy involving South Carolina and the bizarre uniform fiasco, we need some context to understand the game in question, as well as what the original plan for the Gamecocks was in terms of what jersey they were supposed to wear. It's September 9th, 2000, and we have an SEC game on our hands between the Gamecocks of South Carolina and the Bulldogs of Georgia. Aside from the fact that this was the first SEC game of the season, and you want to start the season off on the right foot, this was a monumental game for South Carolina to play the number 10 ranked Bulldogs. They were coming off of a shutout 31-0 victory against New Mexico State the week before, which on the surface doesn't seem that impressive. Yeah, the win is nice, and the shutout win is nice, but why would a win against New Mexico State of all teams mean a ton? And that's because entering that game, the Gamecocks were terrible. In 1999, South Carolina went winless, going 0-11 in Lou Holtz's first season as head coach. They were 1-10 the year before that, meaning that the Gamecocks, prior to beating New Mexico State, were on a 21-game losing streak. This was a team that, in 1999, averaged 7.9 points per game, which was quite easily the worst total in all of Division 1A, ranking 114th out of 114 teams. And this was a team that, in 11 games that season, scored 10 points or less in 9 of them. By beating New Mexico State, they got that monkey off of their back, and showed that maybe this team could be turning a corner, and that 2000 wouldn't be as bad as 1999. If you can somehow beat Georgia, thereby winning your first SEC game since October 25th, 1997, when you beat Vanderbilt, and snap an 18-game losing streak in the SEC, while at the same time winning your first game against a top 10 opponent since you beat Georgia back in 1988 over a decade ago, the sky was truly the limit. And for this game, the original plan for the Gamecocks was for them to wear their traditional black uniforms, while Georgia would don their all-white uniforms. Now on the surface, this seemed kind of weird. It's a September game in the middle of the afternoon, and South Carolina is the home team, meaning that they get to choose what combo they're going to wear. And they decide to wear black jerseys? Literally the worst color to wear if you're trying to keep cool from the sun? Seems like it'll put yourselves at a major competitive disadvantage, and that someone didn't think this one through the whole way. However, that was the game plan, as truly bizarre as it was. But these were not the only jerseys that the Gamecocks were going to wear all season, because they had a special jersey planned up their sleeve in 2 weeks, when they were set to play Mississippi State on September 23rd. That game was going to be televised on Jefferson Pilot. And with that game truly being in the heat of the day with the sun still up, Lou Holtz ordered that the Gamecocks wear garnet jerseys, which they hadn't worn since 1996. Because South Carolina didn't have garnet jerseys made for the players as an alternate, having not worn the garnet in 4 years, they had to order a brand new set of uniforms in preparation for that Mississippi State game, which cost somewhere in the ballpark of $10,000. Everything was good to go for that Mississippi State game in 2 weeks, as for the first time in 4 years, the Gamecocks would don their iconic garnet look. As equipment manager Chris Matlock, the unsung hero in all of this, said on wanting a garnet jersey, "We talked about it during the summer when we found out our TV schedule. Coach asked me about getting a Cardinal jersey in here, not Cardinal, a garnet jersey, to see what it looked like." However, the day before the game against Georgia, Holtz realized something about the Georgia game. He realized that wearing black jerseys was a really dumb idea. It was already going to be tough enough to be the top 10 team in the country when you hadn't won an SEC game since 1997. Why make it even tougher by subjecting yourselves to black jerseys in the hot sun? With that, Holtz decided that even though they were wearing the garnet jerseys in 2 weeks against Mississippi State, that he wanted the team to wear them against Georgia. As Holtz said, the intention was, we were playing an afternoon game. I don't want to wear black and have it be a 102-degree day and we're melting in the sun. On Friday, September 8th, just 1 day before the game, Holtz showed a sample garnet jersey to the team, just to gauge their reaction. And the reaction was universally positive. Defensive tackle Cleveland Pinckney was one of the many who loved the jerseys, saying, "Everybody wants to look pretty. It's just having a new look. When you switch it up, it becomes new. Then it becomes better. It's a competition for who goes out looking the prettiest." And offensive lineman Melvin Page echoed those thoughts, saying on the garnet jerseys, "I think that was a motivation for us because they hadn't done that in so long. It got everyone hyped for the game." So you would think that would be the end of the story, right? Holtz and the team agreed on making a switch from black jerseys to red jerseys before the game because it was a motivational tool for the players, it was designed to give the players a competitive advantage playing in the sun, and just because it looked really cool. However, if it was that clear-cut and dry, then this would be a complete non-story. A cool little anecdote for sure, but nothing noteworthy. Because the thing with wearing a uniform for a game is that you actually have to have the uniform for the game. And on Saturday, there was a major problem with the Gamecocks that had the potential to blow everything up in smoke. Yeah, they didn't have the garnet jerseys. When Holtz showed the garnet jersey to the team that Friday during practice, that was merely a sample. The Gamecocks did not have every single player's jersey. The good news for South Carolina was that the jerseys arrived about a week and a half before the game. The bad news was that they did not look good, and they had some minor problems. It was never specified what those problems were. Maybe they weren't the right shade of red, or maybe some of the lettering and numbering wasn't centered properly, or maybe the stitching was a little bit off. We don't really know. However, Matlock had to send those jerseys back to get them fixed. This wasn't a huge deal at first, since the game this was planned for, the Mississippi State game, wasn't until September 23rd, so they had plenty of time. But because the players loved the jerseys so much, when Holtz showed the sample jersey to them, the timetable was now moved up to tomorrow. And this meant that, you guessed it, South Carolina did not have the jerseys ready for the game. We had all the players and coaches thinking that they were going to wear garnet jerseys for this game. And behind the scenes, no one had the jerseys for this game ready, because they were all getting fixed up somewhere else. At this point, the time crunch was on, and the pressure was amplified. If these jerseys did not come in time, you would have players who would be deflated and might not be too trusting of their coach anymore for making a false promise to them. You'd have players sweating more in the sun since they're wearing black jerseys, and you would have a distraction popping up immediately before the game, which is the last thing you want to have happen when you were the underdogs against a top 10 team. The mission was simple: get these jerseys, all 100 or so of them, to Williams-Brice Stadium in time for the game. Seems like quite the lofty goal, especially since this was never the game plan. However, Chris Matlock was on a mission to do this, especially since this was only his first season as the equipment manager of the team, so he had a lot to prove. When the sun rose on game day on Saturday, the Garnet jerseys were still not there. As the morning progressed, the Garnet jerseys were still not there. As the clock hit noon, as we went from AM to PM, the jerseys were still not there. Finally, at 12:30 PM, a mere 3 hours before the game was set to kick off, the Garnet jerseys finally arrived at the very last minute, and everything was good to go. When Holt said after the game that Matlock moved mountains to get the jerseys to the team and to get them ready to go for this game, he was not kidding. On Friday morning, Garnet jerseys were never in the plan. On Friday afternoon, it was just one sample. And just 3 hours before kickoff, somehow, it was now the entire team being equipped, geared up, and ready to go for the first Garnet game in 4 years. And when the game kicked off, after some insane drama behind the scenes that I'm not sure anyone really knew about, the Gamecocks pulled off one of their biggest wins in program history. This game marked a turning point, and showed that Holtz had turned this program around. And maybe this season could be surprisingly good. Because on this day, in front of over 83,000 fans, the Gamecocks pulled off what was, at the time, a stunning upset, and defeated Georgia 21-10. What a way to end your 3-year losing streak against SEC competition. Georgia quarterback Quincy Carter entered this game as one of the Heisman favorites. Those Heisman hopes ended overnight, because the Gamecocks firmly shut him down. He finished the game going 10 for 24, completing a mere 41.7% of his passes for 108 yards, no touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and an NFL equivalent passer rating of 16, which is worse than if you did nothing but spike the ball into the ground on every single play. Georgia only had 9 first downs all game. South Carolina won the turnover battle +4, which is always a pretty good indicator of who is going to win. And South Carolina played extremely disciplined football, committing just 1 penalty for 5 yards all day. And it was a fantastic day on the ground for sophomore running back Derek Watson, who after scoring just 1 touchdown in his career entering this game, found the end zone 3 times, scoring all 3 touchdowns for the Gamecocks while picking up 93 yards and averaging 4.7 yards per carry. Not a bad day at the office. And I'm not going to say that the Garnet jerseys were the main reason why they won this game, but considering the fact that the players commented on how much better the Garnet jerseys were than the black jerseys at keeping the heat down, it definitely didn't hurt, that's for sure. 2 decades after this historic game that helped turn the Gamecocks around and usher in a brand new era that no longer made them the laughingstock of the SEC, people still remember this incredible game that brought back the Garnet jerseys, destroyed Quincy Carter's Heisman hopes, and made people believe in the Gamecocks again. And South Carolina fans will speak fondly of this game to this day. But as crazy as this game was on the field, the off-the-field drama that was behind the scenes that didn't go as publicized might have been even crazier. Because on this September day in 2000, the Gamecocks showed up on the field, even if their uniforms almost didn't. Get your official Jaguar Gear 9 merchandise by going to jg9shop.com, and be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, and subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out Twitch every Wednesday night at 9 PM Eastern for your chance to play NFL Trivia and win cash prizes. Link in the description below. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. So you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.